Okay, so get ready to dive into Pride and Prejudice with us today. I mean, who doesn't love a little Austen? But look, we're not here for just a boring plot summary, okay? We're going deep on this one. And we're better to start than with that first line, right? It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife.
Mic drop, Jane.
Right. She just throws us right into it, doesn't she? Marriage, money, the whole shebang. But it's how she plays with those expectations, turns them upside down that makes her so brilliant.
Oh, absolutely. And she
Yeah.
introduces us to these characters, and it's like, game on. Mr. Bingley, he seems like the perfect catch, all those parties, right? But she hints that he's, easily swayed, and I'm like, here we go. Exactly. That one little detail about Bingley being so easily influenced, especially by a certain Mr. Darcy. Total game changer for, well, everything. Yeah, speaking of Mr. Darcy.
Oh, Mr. Darcy. Okay, I have to admit, the first time I read it, I totally fell for the whole, brooding, handsome thing. But Austen, she's good, right? She makes him seem almost like a villain at first. Like, she actually says he's the proudest, most disagreeable man in the world. It makes you wonder how someone like that, well, you'll see.
That's the beauty of it, though. She's planting those seeds of, well, prejudice right there with Elizabeth. But remember, this is just the first impression. Mr. Darcy is, well, he's a lot more than meets the eye.
And then there's the Bennets. Oh my gosh, what a family, right? Mrs. Bennet, bless her heart, she just wants to marry those daughters off. A single man of large fortune. I swear I can hear her wheels turning.
She's like the embodiment of all those societal pressures. And Austen, she just nails it. But it's how different all the daughters are that makes it so interesting. Jane, she's all sweetness and light, right? But then there's Elizabeth, our girl. She's got that spark, that independent spirit.
Oh, yeah. Remember when she just shuts down Mr. Collins's proposal? I mean, what a moment. He practically insults her family, and she's just like, nope, not happening. She says, my courage always rises at every attempt to intimidate me. I was cheering.
That scene is so important. It shows how much she's willing to stand up for herself, In a time when women were expected to just accept, she's like, no way, I have my own standards. That whole theme of women having agency, of pushing back against expectations, it runs through the whole book. It really does.
Oh, it totally does. And Austen can be really funny, too. I mean, Mr. Collins, talk about awkward. He's so sure of himself, but he's just clueless, right? He's almost a caricature, but it works.
He totally is. And it's like she's making fun of those ridiculous social rules. And I bet we all know a Mr. Collins or two, right? Maybe just a little less obvious about it. But that's what makes it so great. It's still relatable, even now. We still judge people too quickly, feel pressure from society, meet our share of Mr. Collinses.
For sure. But Austen doesn't just stop at poking fun at bad marriage proposals, right? She throws us right into this world where everything matters. How you act, who you know, what people say. It's like a pressure cooker.
Oh, totally. It wasn't just about love, right? It was about money, your place in society, everything. And Austen shows that so well. Like, she calls balls high-stakes mating rituals. Can you imagine the pressure, especially for women? Their whole future depended on finding the right person.
It's like every little interaction meant something. You had to be on all the time playing this game. And in the middle of all that, we meet, well, he seems almost too good to be true, right? Mr. Wickham.
Ah, Mr. Wickham. He comes in all charming, and he's got this sad story. Austen is so smart, setting him up as the opposite of Darcy, isn't she?
Totally. And that's where she gets us again. We're starting to wonder about Darcy. Then boom, here's Wickham. And it's like she's saying, don't believe everything you see.
Exactly. Because under all that charm, Wickham's hiding things, dark things, and they're going to turn everyone's world upside down. It's that constant question, who's good, who's not, that keeps you hooked on every page.
It's like Austen is always whispering, don't be fooled by appearances. And trust me, nowhere is that more true than when we get to the truth about Mr. Wickham.
Oh, yeah, now it gets good. Wickham, oh, Wickham. He really gets you, That moment when everything blows up and you realize he's not who he seemed. It's like Austen reached into the book and punched me right in the gut.
I know, right? You think you've got him figured out, and then bam! Austen plays the long game with his character, revealing these little things like puzzle pieces, and then, oh boy, you see the whole picture.
It's like watching a masterclass in storytelling. Austen uses this technique called free indirect discourse, right? Basically, we're in Elizabeth's head the whole time feeling what she feels. So when she falls for Wickham, we kind of do too, and then when she gets the rug pulled out from under her, well, let's just say we feel that crash landing right along with her.
That's such a good point. And speaking of crash landings, can we talk about that letter? You know, the one where Darcy finally spills the tea about Wickham? I mean, imagine getting a letter like that, one that totally changes everything you thought you knew. What a power move. Seriously. That letter is everything. It's not just some plot device. It's like this huge turning point for Darcy and Elizabeth, for us as readers, too. I mean, think about it. Darcy, who we've seen being all proud and reserved, he lets his guard down in that letter. He admits he's made mistakes, admits he was prejudiced against Elizabeth's family, and then he just lays it all out there about Wickham, how he's this manipulative gambler who tried to run off with Darcy's own sister.
Scandalous. No wonder Elizabeth is floored. But, that's what I love about Austen. She doesn't just give us these flat characters. They're complicated. They make mistakes. Elizabeth is so quick to judge at first, and then she has to face the fact that, well, she was wrong.
And that's what makes her so great, right? She owns it. Imagine back then a woman questioning a man's word. Not easy. It was a huge risk, especially in public. Totally. She risked her reputation to speak her mind, and it blew up in her face. But even then, she doesn't back down. It's that courage to defy expectations, remember. We talked about it earlier. It's what makes Elizabeth so awesome. She doesn't shy away from difficult conversations or difficult truths.
Absolutely. But Austen doesn't make it easy on her. Elizabeth's inner struggle, her confusion, her anger, it's all right there on the page. It shows that real growth, real change, it's messy,
It's so true. And you know what else I find fascinating? How Austen weaves in those social dynamics, the pressures, especially for women. It's like Elizabeth's prejudice against Darcy. It wasn't just about him. It was about his world, his class, how she saw them treating her family. It adds this whole other layer to their conflict.
Oh, 100%. That whole idea of social mobility, or the lack of it, it's huge in the book, right? Austen shows how class determined everything, how you interacted with people, who you could marry, everything. Think about Charlotte Lucas, Elizabeth's friend. She marries Mr. Collins because she has to, not because she wants to. It's a reminder that for many women back then, marriage wasn't about love, it was about survival.
Makes you appreciate Elizabeth even more, right? She dares to hope for something different, a love built on respect, on equality, even if it seems impossible. But even that belief is tested, right? I mean, talk about drama. Lydia eloping with Wickham. Austen knows how to keep us on the edge of our seats.
Oh, absolutely. Just when you think things might be looking up for our dear Elizabeth and Darcy, bam, Lydia throws that curveball.
Lydia running off with Wickham. I mean, talk about a scandal. It's like Austen knew how to push those buttons, You're rooting for these characters and then wham, right in the field.
Oh, totally. And it's not just about the drama, right? It shows how much was at stake back then. A woman's reputation, it was everything. One misstep and her future was basically well over. Poor Lydia. She really messed things up for the whole family, especially her sisters.
It's true, and everyone reacts so differently. Mrs. Bennet, bless her heart, she just falls apart. Mr. Bennet, he's just like, wow, what's done is done. But Elizabeth, she's caught in the middle. She's got her own feelings for Darcy, but then there's this duty to her family.
And that's where Darcy, he really steps up. He could have just walked away, let the whole thing blow over. But no, he puts himself on the line to fix it, secretly arranging their marriage, even though it could ruin his own reputation. I mean, come on, that's love.
Right. Talk about a grand gesture. He swallows his pride, risks everything for Elizabeth and her family. After she rejected him, too, it shows you how much he's grown, how much he truly cares.
It's like that moment when you realize, okay, this guy is the real deal. He's not all Pride and Prejudice anymore. He's learned from his mistakes, and he's willing to do the right thing no matter what.
And Elizabeth, she sees that, too. It's not just that he saves the day, it's how he does it with such quiet strength and compassion. She finally sees the real Darcy, the one she almost missed because of her own prejudices,
Exactly. And that's what makes their happy endings so satisfying. It's not just some fairy tale. It feels earned. They both messed up, they both learned, and they came together as better people because of it.
I love that. And even though we get those happy endings with Jane and Bingley too, Austen doesn't sugarcoat everything. Charlotte and Mr. Collins, they end up together, but it's not exactly romantic, is it? And Lydia and Wickham, they're clueless. It's like she's saying, hey, life isn't always perfect, even with a good marriage.
It's true. She gives us a glimpse into all these different kinds of relationships, different ideas of what happiness looks like. It makes you think, what compromises would I make? What's really important in the long run?
Such a good point. Pride and Prejudice, it's more than just a love story, right? It's about family, society, and figuring out who you are in the middle of it all.
Absolutely. It's about challenging your own assumptions, learning from your mistakes, and, maybe finding a little romance along the way.
That's Jane Austen for you. She gives you all the feels, makes you think, and leaves you wanting more.
Every single time.